Welcome back to Quacks Chats, a Bearded Steve podcast, episode 11, the penultimate one of the season, and it's about conversation I've never had. We've all got them, haven't we? The words we almost said, the texts we typed and deleted, the phone calls we rehearsed but never made, and sometimes it's pride, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's just bad timing, innit? But those unsaid things stick around longer than most people do. So this week, I wanted to finally have a few of those conversations with old friends, with family, with younger me, and maybe with people who will never ever hear them. Because sometimes it's not about being heard, it's about letting go.
Hear the laughs, feel the chat, story spinning, imagine that. Life games and a little sass. Quacks and Chats, a Bearded Steve podcast. Bearded Steve podcast.
I think everyone's had that conversation they wish they had with their family. Not the dramatic movie style kind, just the quiet ones that never happen. For me, it was probably with my younger self, or maybe even to my mum and dad. Growing up, we weren't exactly the family that sat around the table, poured our hearts out. You know, it was more, get on with it, you do what needs doing, and emotions, well, they can wait. I was the kid who helped out, as you heard in episode 2, and kept things moving, filled the gaps when adults couldn't. And when you do that young, you learn to stay quiet. You learn that silence can feel safer than being misunderstood. But years later, you realise that there's a cost to that. All those swallowed words and all the I'm fines and I'm goods that weren't. I wish I'd told my mum I saw it all. The effort, the care, the way she gave, even when her own tank of self-love was running on fumes. She showed me what real giving looks like. Not the big dramatic gestures, but the quiet ones. The cups of tea, the small check-ins, the way she'd keep going even when she clearly was exhausted. She taught me that caring isn't a weakness, it's strength in disguise. And my dad, that's probably the conversation I never had, but always needed. But yeah, we don't always see eye to eye, and his version of love was tough, but it was real. He stepped up when things fell apart. The one who worked, pushed, expected something, sometimes too much, but he never walked away and he's still there. His lessons weren't gentle, but they stuck. And now, looking back, I get it. That toughness wasn't distance, it was preparation. He showed me what resilience looked like when life doesn't go your way. He taught me that standing up for yourself doesn't always mean shouting. Sometimes it means just not breaking. But if there's one conversation that still sits in the back of my mind, it's the one that's never had the courage to ask. Am I the son that you're proud of? I think about it more than I'd ever admit. Not because I doubt it, but some questions carry more weight than answers ever could. And maybe that's what keeps me trying. To keep doing better. To keep showing up. Because whether he said it or not, I hope one day I've done enough to make that answer yes. So yeah, if I could sit across from both of them now, I'll just say thank you. To Mum, for showing me how to give love even when you've got none left to spare, and to Dad for showing up how to take a hit and keep moving. Between them, they built a balance that I didn't understand at the time, and that's heart and grit. The two sides that still get me through life today. Some conversations never happen because life gets in the way. Others never happen because we think we've missed that window. The ones that got away, those are the hardest. Not always romantic, not always tragic, just unfinished. I think about a few people in my life, old friends, people I used to be close to, some I probably hurt, others who just drifted off. You never realise it's the last time you'll speak until it's already happened. And if I'm honest, there are a few I'd go back and talk to properly, not pretending everything's fine, no trying to win the moment, just real talk. I'd say sorry to the ones that I pushed away when I was burnt out and had no other words for it, and I'd say to the ones who stayed, even when it was difficult, thank you. And to the ones who came into my life like a storm and left just as quick, I'd still thank them too, because not everyone was meant to stay, but they will still change you. There was someone who once told me, "You're hard to read, but easy to care about." At the time, I laughed it off, but now I get it. Because when you spend years keeping parts of yourself locked away, people only ever see the version you're brave enough to show, even with this podcast. And sometimes you push away the ones who are actually trying to understand you. There's always that one person you wish you could sit down with again. No cameras, no defence, no jokes, and just say, "Hey, I never stopped wishing you well." I think the older I get, the more I realise closure isn't always about getting answers. It's about giving peace to the parts of you that never got to speak. So if you're listening to this, probably not, and there's someone you've never ever got to say what you wanted to, maybe you don't need to call them. Maybe you just need to say it out loud for yourself, or maybe sit them down and have that talk. That's what I'm doing here, having the conversations that I've missed, even if they only echo back to me. Some of the hardest conversations aren't with other people, they're with the voice in your own head. I've spent years talking myself out of things, out of chances, out of rest, out of believing I was doing enough. When burnout hit and the noise got loud, that inner critique that used to whisper started shouting. You know, the one that says you're lazy, you're falling behind, you're not who you used to be, you're not where you're supposed to be, you aren't who you're supposed to be. And for a long time, I believed it. I pushed through every wall, tell myself other people had it worse, I still do, and tell myself over and over again to get over it. But all that did was make the silence even heavier. Sometime, somewhere, between streaming late nights and clocking in for early shifts, I realised I'd stopped talking to myself like someone that I cared about. I was giving patience to everyone else around me but myself. The first time I actually looked in the mirror and said, "You're allowed to slow down," I didn't feel comfortable. It felt weak. But that's the thing. Kindness towards yourself always feels wrong at first, but when you've lived on survival mode. Now when I catch that old voice creeping in, I answer it back. I tell it, "You've made it through worse. You're still here. You're still trying." And sometimes that's enough. I think everyone needs that conversation eventually. The one where you stop being your own enemy and start being your own ally. Because it's mad, isn't it? You forgive other people for things you never forgive yourself for. But healing doesn't start when someone else apologises. It starts when you stop punishing yourself for surviving. After all the noise, the people, the years of trying to say things the right way, you start to realise that some conversations just don't need to be fixed. They just need to be appreciated. The ones that still matter aren't always the ones that went perfectly. They're the ones that kept showing up even when you didn't know how to. They're the people in my life right now who probably have no idea how much they've helped. The ones who checked in when things went quiet. The ones who showed up to streams just to say, "You good, mate?" And the ones that didn't need to understand everything to still care. Those conversations that kept me grounded, The simple, everyday ones that remind me connection doesn't always need deep meaning. Sometimes it's just about being there. I used to think closure meant everything was getting said out loud, like ticking boxes so nothing was left hanging. But now, I think it's softer than that. Closure can be silence that feels peaceful, not awkward. You know the type where it's just nice. It's when you can look back without flinching, when you stop needing to win or explain or to prove anything. The people who still matter, they don't need the perfect words, just the real ones. A few years ago, I couldn't have had half these conversations, not out loud anyway, and not put out on social media and in a podcast. I didn't have the tools, the distance, or the headspace. But time and a few good people changed that. They gave you perspective. They remind you it's okay not to get every moment perfect. And when life gets heavy, when I start to lose sight of why I keep trying, I look up. I look up to Ursa Major, you know, Big Dipper. It's something that I've done since my aunt's passed away. She collapsed on my birthday, and I will go into more at a later date. But I never really knew what to do with that. But now, when things get rough, I find that constellation, and it sort of resets me. The other day when I was having an anxiety attack, I went out, looked up, found it, and there was bliss. But yeah, a reminder that some people never really leave. They just change where they shine from. And if I could have one more conversation with my aunt, I think it'd be the same question that I'd never asked my parents. Am I the nephew you thought I'd grow up to be? But unlike before, I don't think I need the answer anymore. I'm made peace with the silence, because sometimes the quiet is the answer. And that's enough. But yeah, here's to the ones that still matter. The people who stayed, the lessons that stuck, and the quiet, messy, beautiful conversations we finally learn to have.
Quacks and Chats, a bearded Steve podcast.
Right, deep breath. Let's liven it up a bit, yeah? It's time for gaming news! And what's been happening in the world of pixels and broken controllers this week, I hear you ask. Xbox Game Pass has just added Dredge, the Pale Reach DLC, and Little Kitty Big City. Try and say that 10 times quick. So, if you need a break from screaming and horror games, you can go be a cat for a few hours. Mental reset, guaranteed. Microsoft Edge Game Assist has rolled out in October 2025 update, adding enhanced support for 23 more titles. Now it's got over 275. Plus user settings to disable it directly. 2025 League of Legends World Championship is underway in China, Beijing, from the 14th of October, so 13 days ago, as of when this goes out, to the 9th of November, using new Fearless Draft format. So for all you League of Legends players and streamers and esports fans, this means new plays, new metas, and new moments to clip. And according to the latest calendar, this week's got it all: indie games, big sequels, and wildcard titles. So yeah, if you've got the time, that backlog might need clearing. Just warning you now. And that's the week's gaming news.
Quacks and Chats, a bearded Steve podcast.
What would it be if we didn't have weird or real news? So yeah, let's look at some side quests, shall we? A European praying mantis with, yes, a praying hands has been spotted in Cornwall, mainland UK, for the first time. The Wildlife Trust of Cornwall says it's climate migration. Translation: it might just be someone's escaped pet that got ambitious, or the the water supply in Cornwall, because there's a load wrong down in Cornwall. Oi. And today's episode is going to be fully Cornwall based, because a deep sea fisherman off the coast hooked a wreckfish, a prehistoric monster that literally eats sharks down in Cornwall. Marine biologists, there we go, get that word out, called it a once in a lifetime catch. I call it the reason why I'm never going swimming again. And then finally, again, still in Cornwall, because there's always weird stories, even weirder people down there. I thought, if you thought your house was creepy, meet Candice Collins from Cornwall. She owns what's been called the UK's most haunted doll, a little boy-looking nightmare called Norman, and she swears he's making her life a living hell. Or is that just your neighbour? We're talking whispers, cold spots, and that constant feeling of being watched. Candice also collects cursed objects, a Salem witch trial newspaper, and one of those crying boys paintings that's supposed to bring bad luck. Honestly, I don't know what's scarier, the doll, the fact she keeps bringing more haunted stuff to her house, or she lives in Cornwall. Either one, all three are terrifying. It's a no from me.
Quacks and Chats, a bearded Steve podcast.
And here we go. This penultimate community corner of season 1. What, Jesus. And this is where, if you are brand new, this is where you guys take the mic for a minute or two. If I keep rambling, it'll be a bit longer. So last week I asked if you could live in any video game world for a week, which one would it be? And I swear the questions brought out everyone's inner gamer. Chelsea, massive supporter, quality control. Everyone knows her. She came in strong with Cooking Mama. She said she'd love to be praised for her cooking, but if it goes all horribly wrong and she chops her hand off, she can just hit restart and try again. That's optimism and chaos in one sentence, and I love it. Gordon Ramsay meets Groundhog Day. Absolutely great. Love it. Someone messaged me saying The Sims, but only if they get the full cheat codes, because apparently real life bills ruin the immersion. Fully get that one. Another person messaged me saying Mario Kart, but only if they're allowed to throw blue shells at annoying co-workers. Honestly, I can get down with that. And my personal favourite was Minecraft, but only in creative. Survival's too stressful. Honestly, absolute mood. Imagine just being like, oh, there's a problem there. Alright, I'm going to fly off. Oh, no, I'm going to make it despawn. Great. So yeah, next week's question's a good one. We're heading into season 1 finale. So you know what I want to know? What's been your highlight of the season? Or the moment that's made you laugh the most? Or both. Do them both. Put them as separate, because it helps the algorithm. It could be a quote, a story, or one of the chaotic news bits. Drop it in the Discord, DM me on TikTok. Put it in the comments of where you're listening this from, and I'll read it out next week.
Quacks and Chats, a bearded Steve podcast.
And that's episode 11, Conversations I've Never Had. The things we never say, the people we still think about, and the quiet moments that end up saying the most. If this episode hit home, maybe take a minute. Reach out to someone, or just say something kind to yourself. Because half the time, the words we keep in are the ones that would have and could have made the biggest difference. Next week is the big one. It's season 1 finale, from quacks to closure. It's going to be a mix of laughs, chaos, and a look back at how we got here. Every story, every quack, every moment that built this community. Till then, keep the conversations kind, keep the quacks loud, and remember, sometimes the silence says enough. Don't forget to rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to, and join the Discord. The link is down in the description down below. You've been listening to Quacks and Chats, a Bearded Steve podcast. Till next week, goodbye.
Thanks for watching Quacks and Chats with the bearded Steve. A bearded Steve. podcast.